Welcome to the Apex Perspective podcast. My name is Aryan Mohindra, and today's podcast is sponsored by Mind and Body Mastery, in which we provide CEOs and founders with tailored health programs. And our objective here is to challenge the status quo with regard to fitness and health. Being someone that struggled with obesity for a large part of my life, I struggled with going back and forth through years, following fitness routines that were a part of the mainstream advice. And the problem here was that none of them focus on what really drives results with regard to fitness and health. And that is number one, a negative energy deficit. And number two, producing strength gain every single week. And so what we focus on at Mind and Body Mastery is to essentially utilize these core principles that really drive results and build fitness routines that eliminate the biggest barriers with regard to fitness, which are number one, the time investment, and number two, the grueling process. You do not need to starve yourself. You do not need to cut out sweets, and you do not need to spend hours in the gym. You just need to focus on what actually works. And that's why we focus on walking as 80% of the fitness routine, which is exactly how I lost over 70 pounds and kept it up to date. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can go ahead and check out mindandbodymasteryfitness.com. There you'll also find out more about my free resources, which will give you more insight into the perspectives I just shared now, and that will save you years of progress and mistakes that I made myself. Today, we have Tony Wan, CEO and founder at Player Support. Tony is a advisor at UCSD, which is where I currently attend. He has a wealth of experience in the gaming industry. He worked at Epic Games. He has worked at the executive level at multiple other companies, and I'd love to get a little bit into that. Tony, can you tell me more about that experience?
Sure, yeah. Working at Epic was a real sort of boon for me, a chance, like a once in a lifetime opportunity to see what it's like inside of a company that's going from a game that seems to be on the rise and seeing what that rocket ship looks like. And the game was obviously Fortnite. And joining
Mhm.
around the 20 some odd million player mark, and staying on well past the 450 million player mark, was something really to experience, and was glad to be a part of that team. Companies look very different depending on which stage of their maturity they're at, whether they have a hit product on the market or not. And this was one of those rare glimpses inside something that was a phenomenon, like nothing,
Mhm.
no business school model, nothing prepares you for it. It's all real life stuff at that kind of massive global scale. It was
Mhm.
super fun. It was super stressful. Probably the craziest mix of both of those things that I've had in my life. Like definitely one of the most memorable periods of working. Made a lot of friends there. Still friends today, and have
Mhm.
a lot of affection for the company overall.
Love it. And tell me more about what player support is about.
Player Support is a company that is born to solve two big problems that I've seen throughout my career. I've mainly built large at scale global support teams for live service games over the past
Mhm.
more than a decade now, and have been working on live service, both mobile but also a multi-platform console PC games, and really working on both the business model, but then also how do you keep your customers? Businesses essentially how to gain and how to keep your customers. And
Mhm.
the company that I started was really born out of a need for. Um, I'd done surveys with my friends throughout the industry who
Mhm.
lead like some of the largest support like player experience teams for a lot of these live service studios, and the satisfaction that we all had with even our best outsourcing business partners was at best around 70%. So it's like, okay, it works, but we're not super thrilled. We're not super loyal. We're always looking for something potentially new.
Mhm.
And there were a lot of challenges in those business relationships. Um, and so I spent some time sort of researching why that was, and came to the
Mhm.
conclusion that a new company definitely needed to exist. And part of the company's mission is not just addressing the partnership issues for, you know, these live service video game companies and making
Hmm.
sure that we're first of mind whenever at any scale when people think about needing these kind of services, but also that I have a strong hypothesis that a lot of current corporate best practices are fundamentally broken from a human
Hmm.
outcomes perspective, and it's in desperate need of some innovation and some repair. We tend to outsource the idea of innovation to technology only. So, you know, an
Hmm.
executive says, "Oh, HR is a problem. I'm going to buy new software," or especially these days, right? Just shove AI
Hmm.
in whatever software that you're using, whatever company that you have, and it's going to fix everything. But then that leads to a neglect of the human governance systems and culture and how people actually behave in a company. And I think, you know, a lot of the corporate best practices, the well-intentioned and maybe individually do not lead to necessarily negative outcomes. Together as a
Hmm.
whole, they've at the very least contributed to what every health minister is worried about these days, which is a you know, global mental health epidemic. It's being called, and certainly seeing some of those challenges in you know, younger and younger workforces, for sure. So you know,
Hmm.
the company is really built to kind of tackle those two problems head on. That we can come up with a solution for the games industry for these kinds of services, a true business partner who is looking out for your needs, because I've been on the other side of the equation. I know what that's like.
Right.
Um, but also that, you know, we're trying to, if we're lucky, it's very difficult. I'm not in any illusion that's going to be easy. But if we come up with a handful of meaningful new good practices for companies in terms of business operations.
Hmm.
We love to publish our findings. We're very intent on researching what's happening with our own workforce and really
Right.
looking to try to build a new way of doing work for large companies, or really companies of any size, but especially large companies. As you know, generations are changing, sensibilities are changing, what employees
Hmm.
value are changing, and I think it's a really important time to make sure that we build better governance structures and ways of operating for the next generations, because the old one is currently, I feel, breaking down in many ways.
And how do you see that impacting that the ways of operations currently? How do you see that impacting the productivity and capability of the company to do what it's meant to do?
Yeah, I mean, you see lots of dysfunctions today, right? Like,
Hmm.
I would say, you know, I should probably create a list or something of common dysfunctions, but you know, one that you'll see is people have a tendency to, let's say, when you have a large corporation, you have global teams, they tend to shove too much decision making into one central unit, no matter where it's located. You know, some companies have even tried to say, oh well, you know, we want to spread out decision making amongst our different geographical locations, but they're still all centralized. Like it's still one
Right.
global site, and so you create a lot of bottlenecks that don't need to be there, and you disempower teams, tactical teams that are closer to
Hmm.
execution. So everything suffers. You know, you have employment engagement that suffers because people get very frustrated by having to ask somebody a million miles away in a different time zone that doesn't wake up till a certain time. It's not their fault, right? It's like their regular work time, but
Hmm.
still your work is delayed. It's like, oh, I can't get approval for this, like to give
Right.
an employee a webcam or a new keyboard because I've got to wait for IT Central to wake up in some other
So
time zone.
this costs
It's
execution.
ridiculous.
This costs a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah. I mean,
execution.
you can't execute. You know, you and it looks like cost savings on paper, but actually your teams are so inefficient that you know, you're losing. You create more idle time. you're losing just a lot of effectiveness. You're going to lose your customers in the long run
Right.
because your organization just gets so bogged down and you can't get anything done anymore. And
Right.
so that's, one example of it. Um, the other is like
But that,
management by consensus. It's like there's a ton
mhm.
of these.
Of course,
You're going to
and
say something, sorry.
with
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say without that proper execution, you can't even A/B test new ideas as well. And that's what actually allows a company to drive more innovation is to A/B test, to push the boundaries, and with that inability to execute, it's going to slow down things a lot quicker, a lot quicker, and it's going to cost a lot more than centralizing it. That's what I'm hearing. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's certainly part of it, and it's not just being able to run multiple experiments, which I would say is a little bit superior to A/B testing, but
Hmm.
like it's across all of your functions whenever you do that, and then you get people who uh, you get over specialization as an issue. People like trying to um, build empires, right? And so they prevent other teams from doing the work that they need to do because they say, oh, well, you can't have engineers on your team because I'm central engineering and I control all the engineers
This is across
and
all
you can't
teams.
have any. Yeah, I mean, some companies do
Wow.
this. They literally do this. So they, have an engineering part of their company, and they don't allow any other engineers to be hired on to any other teams, and which is really, it's really deadening for certain parts of your business.
Right.
And being having led support teams for you, we're one of the teams that are bottom of priority stack all the time because of a misunderstanding of what issues we're raising as priority. And to be fair, a lot of people in the industry don't know how to present compelling business cases to get the work done that they need to, or because of their disposition, usually people who work in customer service tend to be very, accommodating and quite nice. So it makes sense, right? It's like, oh, it's your customer service person. Um, and so because of that, a lot of their stuff continuously gets pushed bottom of stack. You have
Hmm.
centralized organizations who, you're going to prioritize a new feature for the product, or are you going to prioritize
Hmm.
this, quality of life thing, or something that seems like a customer service issue, but it's like, no, 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 this is a product issue. This is a your customers are leaving you issue. And I think if people learn how to phrase things in those ways, they might win more arguments. But the fact that you have to
Wow.
have the argument so much is really disruptive. It's like, look,
Yeah.
like dedicate engineers to this team, get it done. Like I've always argued for dedicated engineering teams when we need something massive done very quickly to, let's say, stop the bleeding out of the back end of the business. But
Hmm.
a lot of people never get around to making those connections.
Where did you get? Where did you observe this problem? Was this Epic Games or was this somewhere else?
Oh, I don't really air out people's dirty laundry, but I
Okay.
would say it's something that is very, very common. I'm pretty sure that anybody who works for a large multinational corporation
Mhm.
also suffers these issues, whether it's my
Right.
friends, in finance or at BPOs or at any kind of large, multinational company. You're going to
Mhm.
suffer issues between um, headquarters, wherever headquarters is, and your satellite companies and waiting on approvals and lots of bloat, right? That's why you see layoffs happen so
Yeah.
often once easy money dries up.
And I'm curious about your a little bit about your mindset now. What principles guide your mindset? For me, it's that there's a chance, for me personally, that I could pass away tomorrow, and I would want to operate in the best way possible every single day because I don't control my heartbeat, but I control my actions, and that's what really drives my actions and my mindset. So, out of curiosity, what principles guide your mindset?
Sure. I mean, to sum it up very easily, I am a religious person, so I'm a Christian. So
Hmm.
that's one that's like the primary one for me. But if you want to distill that, and I've tried to distill a lot of it into, let's say, a couple of easy principles for people to grasp onto who don't share my beliefs. Um, One would be making sure that you have a purpose outside of yourself.
Hmm.
That's got to be really important, whether it's care for other people or your community or a cause or something like that. That must exist. Something
Hmm.
in service to others for the greater good, not just yourself.
Hmm.
I would say, in addition to that, there's seven general core virtues, values that I put, at the heart of my company. And it's actually
Hmm.
it's written out very plainly in the employee handbook that we have. And just to go through the list really quick, it's the pursuit of truth, humility, self-control, and discretion. Discretion's an expression of self-control.
Hmm.
Excellence, diligence, gratitude, and courage. And so those seven, I think, for me, make up a bare minimum of values that a group needs to share in order to be successful, no matter what
Right.
other personal beliefs you had. Like these are the seven that I think that any functioning group of people really needs to place at the center.
Hmm.
Otherwise, things start to fall apart in all kinds of terrible ways. Um,
Okay. And so, is there a specific mindset shift that you went through in your career that you would say you'd credit a lot of your success to?
Yeah, I would say I'm not sure if it was a shift, but more of a kind of a gradual growth. And the idea was
Hmm.
very simple: is if I'm going to do anything with a huge portion of my life, 8+ hours a day, I should do it as best as I can.
Hmm.
That's it. Like, why would you spend so much of your life if you're not going to try your best, if you're not going to do it well? It just, to me, has always seemed like such a waste.
Okay.
And that idea has gotten stronger and stronger over the years. Like I really appreciate and love to watch anybody dedicate themselves to their craft, whether that's a sushi chef who has spent like 10 years, 12 years, 30 years, making the
Hmm.
same stuff and trying to improve every little bit of it, to, I mean, somebody who is, really working on maybe something a little bit more in the creative industry. They're never 100%, let's say, satisfied with the outcome. And there's this scene from this documentary called, I think it's called Jiro Dreams of Sushi. And it's
Hmm.
just, at the time he was like 85. And there's this one part of the movie he's saying that he keeps climbing and he keeps climbing to the top, but he's no idea where the top is. But he just keeps climbing. And even at
Yeah.
his age of like 85 at the time, like he's like, I haven't gotten there yet. And I think it's that
Hmm.
that that bit of unreasonable dedication to whatever it is that you're doing that really helps make life better for yourself, for people around you, for those who get to benefit from the quality that eventually comes from
Yeah.
your hard labor, right? People get to experience what it is that you do. I think that's lovely. It's such a nice
I
part of
love
life.
it. When you find these people that dedicate a large part of their lives to dedicate to that craft, you'll find that these people have the most unique insights into that industry or into whatever craft they're into, and it really can change the world. I mean, I spoke to a spoke to an individual that's creating a technology that's groundbreaking, that's meant to basically stop all of neurodegeneration. He strongly believes, he's one of my prior podcast guests, and he strongly believes that we should have no neurodegeneration at all. That's what the health industry believes. We should be doing healthy aging. We lose that.
Right.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
crazy. So I mean, I love it though. It's what really, those people who drive for that extra edge. I mean, that's, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And to shift a little bit into the fitness part of the conversation, I want to talk a little bit about my background. Is I struggled with obesity for a large part of my life. Went back and forth for years, following the wrong routines, and it really started because my doctor told me I was going to live 15 years less if I didn't take action, because I was about 240 pounds. And so I kind of was forced into it, but I found along the way that there's so much wrong advice out there, and none of it really focuses on what drives change for real. And that is, again, like what I mentioned before, it's creating that negative energy deficit and producing
Mm.
strength gain. But what I wanted to make it clear is that it wasn't just about the fact that I gained years back on my life, but my quality of life increased significantly. I remember when I went on vacations, I could barely stand. I couldn't participate in the activities I wanted to do, and it was basically it was a lower quality of life. And when you do get in shape and you get in good shape, it changes how you experience life. And not only did it do that, you also reduce the risk of health complications. And just out of curiosity, given this amount of change you can experience in life with health and fitness, I want to get your take on this. What do you think is the biggest barrier for CEOs and founders to enter into fitness?
I think it's the illusion that we don't have enough time. That's probably one of the primary ones. Illusion that we don't
Hmm.
have enough time, um, because our schedules are always fully packed or whatever it is, and we have
Hmm.
additional responsibilities to, our family, our friends, our loved ones. But I do want to stress that I believe that that's an illusion, because you make time for the things that are important, and those people would certainly make time, even if it's 20, 30 minutes a day. You can sneak something in that's very helpful for you.
Hmm.
Probably
Right.
the biggest one with that.
And I completely agree with you. It's this illusion, like you said, but the misconception that it requires grueling process, it requires all this time, is completely wrong. And I think that if people understood that, I think if CEOs and founders understood that, the small shifts they make in their schedule that align with their busy lives, that can make an incredible change, and that can produce a much higher quality of life. When we think about how it affects how we experience all parts of life, not just reducing the risk of health complications, but how you experience vacations, how you experience family time, how you experience, being able to show up to work with full of energy. These things change the quality of your life. So,
Oh, health. Yeah,
I'm
health is everything,
yeah,
man. Yeah.
yeah, and just curious, do you have fitness goals for 2025?
Do I have, sorry, fitness goal for 2025?
For 2025, yeah.
Uh, let's see. I mean, my doctor's like, hey, you need to lose some weight. Um, so I mean, besides that one, there's not really anything specific beyond that. I have a weight reduction target,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I don't really worry about it, because I don't think it'll be too hard to reach. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, so
What do
yeah,
you
that's pretty much it.
and what do you think most people struggle with when they try to reach weight loss goals?
I think, again, it's sorting through all of the noise,
Right.
what to eat, what to drink, which exercise to do, how to do it. Um,
Mhm.
you know, um, but I think at the end of the day, it's usually just a mixture of three things. That the thing we talked about with time, convenience and or ease, like reducing the energy cost of getting to a workout place. Like, a lot of people think you have to go to a gym, you don't have to go to a gym, right? There's lots of things you can do around your
Right.
neighborhood or just in your front yard or whatever, or even in your living room. And then the third thing I think would really be really around food. Some people have challenges with eating too much ultra processed stuff or super
Hmm.
high calorie dense stuff too often, and I think that can be a challenge for folks as well. So it's like
Okay.
anti-productive, right?
Okay, good. And just to give quick advice regarding that is, like you said, you don't need to go to the gym. You really just need to create that negative energy deficit, and that means you just need enough movement to the point where you're burning more calories than you're consuming daily. And that doesn't really require you to go to the gym. It requires you to have just enough movement. And again, that's the reason why I focus on walking as the primary strategy, because no matter where you go in the world, as long as there's ground, you can do so. And with regard to the eating aspect, I've struggled with this for a long time. The ultra processed part, that's a simple shift we make towards, a healthier choice. But with regard to the strategy that I use, it's focusing on allowing yourself to enjoy what you actually like, so it doesn't feel like dieting. And that's why I include I include a portion of my calories dedicated towards chocolate or anything I really like, because when you're
Yeah.
enjoying the process, when you enjoy the process and it adheres to the principles that drive results, then it's not going to feel like you're killing yourself. It's going to feel like you're not really on a diet, but you're actually really driving results because you're following something that actually works. And
Well,
now, yeah, go
but
ahead.
yeah, like I think some people, whether it's amount of exercise or types of exercise or amount of like diet, let's say, sometimes they go to these extremes like way too quickly, and it's like, look, you can't torment yourself like that. Like you have to baby step it, right? Like in many
Yeah.
cases, and that's okay. Like don't, because if you set the goal, you set the bar way too high, way too early, it's demotivating.
It's
You just end up
demotivating. Yeah.
failing, and then you don't continue.
Incredibly. You're absolutely correct. That's what I had to go through. But I would say it's good to get in those small steps where you're building upon those routines you're doing, and you have to acknowledge that you will mess up because that's inevitable. And the key is to essentially write down why you mess up, and then create a solution for it next time. But just know along the way there will be barriers. But the most important thing is you keep going. Now, I'd love to learn more about where you see yourself going in the next year with regard to player support.
The next year, well, we're hoping to grow the company quite a bit.
Hmm.
I've been, contrary to what a lot of people would do in my situation, I actually throttle growth velocity for my company because I care about company culture and getting things right. And so you can't grow too fast. It's just there's just too many new things to manage it at once.
Hmm.
I think that's dangerous. And so for me, since we've been through, maybe about almost 8 months now of working together with, let's say, the first large group of people, we feel quite comfortable that the core of the company is forming out well. And we're opening the doors a little bit wider, let's say, to let in, to work with more customers. I have zero desire to have a massive company. It's
Hmm.
really important for me to grow slow and steady,
Hmm.
and to make sure that we're doing things the right way, and the people that we let in, share in our, mission to some extent, and that we treat people well, we pay them well, we take care of our folks, we try to,
Hmm.
and we're trying a bunch of new things at the same time in terms of how companies are managed. So I'm hoping that in the next year we can share a lot of our early findings and our way of doing business,
Hmm.
and being good business partners with more clients. So we're looking to grow quite a bit, which should be really fun but very stressful. But more importantly, I think maturing all of our functions and being able to publish a couple of our first white papers on the different approaches that we have to normal key processes like onboarding employees, recruiting processes, how we do remote work. I'm hoping is meaningfully different than how most companies would do it. We've gotten some really good feedback so far, and we're trying a lot of new things this year. So we're not under any illusion that the idea of remote work is dusted and solved, that either it's all bad or it's all good. There's pros and cons, just like any choice, right? Certain benefits and certain things that are not so great. And so we're trying our best to mitigate for the things that are not so great, the trade-offs that we're making, but then really sort of take advantage of the strengths of allowing employees to work from home. So yeah, a lot of experimentation, hopefully some findings and growth.
Great. And where can people find out more about you, Tony, and more about player support?
Sure. We have our company website, playersupport.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just search my name and you should see me in the company logo in the background. And that's where you'll find us.
Perfect.
I also have a Substack. Sorry.
Oh, awesome.
I also have a
awesome.
newsletter.
Yeah. Awesome.
So,
yeah. And if you want to go check those out, I'm going to link your LinkedIn down below in the comment section and also the website. So anyone who wants to learn more about that can do so down below. Awesome. Great. This was Aryan Mohindra and Tony Wan. Thank you for listening.